one did he just do? Mm.
Hi, I'm Sydney O'Sullivan from the National Association of Women in Business, and I'm here again with Aggie Kobrin, who is the president of our U.S. chapter of the National Association. And Aggie's going to tell us what is the secret to running a very successful event, particularly women's events. So, Aggie, welcome.
Thank you, Sid. Thank you. There's a lot of things that women go to events for. I've run dozens and dozens, in fact, hundreds of events, particularly in the women's arena over the last several years, last 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And I've noticed one thing continually. They're not really going for the speakers. The speakers are a relevant part of the reason that they're there, but they're really going to meet each other and make contacts and build on those contacts. The events that focus on what's going on the stage really aren't as attractive to most women. There are some they're attractive to, but what they're really looking at is making the contacts there, is developing relationships there, is bonding, and they tend to bond very quickly and very fast, and building on those relationships to help their businesses. There's another interesting thing I've noticed is that there are some women who just enjoy going to events. They go to event after event after event after event. Don't really get much out of it, and I think that model is really run its course. I think there's a lot of things that are going on in the world right now, particularly in the U.S., maybe a little bit different in Australia, but particularly in the U.S., there's a need now to get something from these, to get benefits from it, to build your business from it, to make your business more successful. And if that's not being met, then they're not attending. And there are a lot of changes happening right now in all events, particularly in women's events in North America.
So, who do you in the instances where you actually see it done very well, what are the standouts that you're noticing?
Time to be together. Exercises that really bond them, exercises that make them connect with one another, where they get a deeper understanding of what the other one is all about. Things that make them grow and develop, as opposed to just have conversation or listen. Sit in an audience and listen. And that model has really, really changed here. There were years and years and years where people were quite content sitting in an audience and listening and having very little interaction. And they absolutely don't want that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very male model, and I'll say that very aggressively. It's a very male model. The male model was definitely to have them sit in an audience for hours and hours and hours, and at the end buy, purchase, feel they have to have something. That is really gone by the wayside. The new model really is interactive. It's much more interactive. It's much more getting something out of the event itself, having leadership up there, but really that leadership forcing them to get to know one another, build on their skill sets, bond with others, and eventually form nurturing relationships with others. And that's the biggest change that I'm seeing now. And hallelujah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's what makes a memorable and life-changing event is when you actually get the participants using their own interactive skills, because quite often the participants can be quite, sorry, I'm losing my dial again.
We need a rest.
But quite often the participants have as much knowledge and expertise sometimes as the speakers.
Oh, quite often more. I'll tell you, quite often, substantially more. There's one thing that I often say to people, and it's that they need to go to events. They need to go to these things, because one simple thing there and one individual meeting of another person and one conversation can change your life forever. I've gotten very, very involved in films and film distribution, and I have to tell you, it's because I met one person at one event that I didn't want to go to. I was sort of pushed into going to something on a Saturday afternoon. My daughter had soccer. My son had something else. I said, I really don't have time. And a friend of mine said, you really have to make the time. Come over for a couple of hours. And I did. It was 15 minutes from my home. I got in the car, went over. And in that hour and a half that I was there, it changed my life. And I didn't know it that day, but I was introduced to somebody that then introduced me to a whole series of things that got me extremely interested in media, that got me extremely interested in film. Within a year, I was distributing media and film. Within 2 years, I was involved in an internet project that, had it worked out, would have been hugely successful. We'll go into why it didn't work out some other time, but had the potential to be hugely successful. And I learned an enormous amount about internet television broadcast, which led me to launch Off Hollywood Media. None of that would have happened, or wouldn't have happened in the way that it did, had I not gone to one event for an hour and a half. So it is amazing what can happen. But that wasn't from being at the event. That was from meeting somebody at the event that changed my world.
And that's how I met you, was through someone that I met at
Absolutely.
an event.
Absolutely.
And you've definitely changed my world. So I can't wait actually to talk about the opportunities that are going to come up for our members as a result of some of the deals that Aggie gets involved in. So we're going to have plenty of opportunities coming up with Off Hollywood Media, which is going to be launched soon. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Very soon.
So anyway, we're going to have a lot of discussions with Aggie in the future. So make sure you join up, and don't miss out on the opportunity to be a member of the National Association of Women in Business. And Aggie Kobrin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you can find out more about Aggie by going to her website, which is www.offhollywoodmedia.com.
And www.cecglobalevents.com.
And nawib.com, which is the National Association of Women in Business. Thank you, Aggie.
Thank you, Sid.